welcome you with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Benchmarks end higher amid volatile moves. Sensex up for the second straight session, 120 points higher, Nifty breaching 18,200. The defense theme will continue to shine in 2023 on the back of strong growth visibility, says Amisha Vora of Prabhudas Leeladhar. She also remains bullish on the banking sector, says more legs in the rally. Microsoft chief Satya Nadella lauds India's digital story, says lots waiting to be done with India's AI capabilities, calls India's digital market dynamic, palpable, citing expectations of tremendous growth potential. EV maker Ola Electric logs in sales of over 25,000 electric scooters in the month of December, market share surpassing 30%. The company aims to achieve Mission Electric, a dominant market share in the EV space by 2025. Death of a 20-year-old girl being dragged to her death rocks the national capital. Concerns now flaring up around the safety of women at workplace and road safety. The question is there enough in place to protect our women? We get you more on the legalities later on the show. Talking about the top themes for 2023, Amisha Vora of Prabhudas Leeladhar sees growth visibility in sectors like defense, PSU banks and manufacturing. While speaking to BTTV Sakshi Batra, she says the rally in banks has more legs and the sector will continue to outperform.
What about the star outperformers, the PSU banks, the banks? Do you see the rally continuing in 2023 or should one really take the profits off and this is it and the Cinderella moment will soon come?
The way economy is shaping up, they've got time to start recovering something out of this bucket. But that something itself will be huge, which can set off any further the normal delinquencies in the business. And as the credit cost or provisioning requirement keeps coming down, I think these stocks have more leg to grow than what they are currently. So whether it is Bank of Baroda, whether it is PNB, apart from, of course, SBI, because SBI we always considered along and at par in terms of key investments within banking, whether it is ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank, we always used to keep SBI in that category.
How do you view LIC now that we've also seen Kotak initiate a coverage with a fair value of 1,000 rupees? Is that a stock that investors can now look at positively at all?
I would definitely think so, because the size of the market share and the market itself, both are very attractive. And, it always takes time for a behemoth like LIC to align themselves to market. But this is a very, very valuable investment of Government of India. And the segment is absolutely growing. It's not as risky as bank where you lend. It's not as risky as a commodity company. It's a very steady and growing segment. So I think that, yes, at this juncture, one should definitely look at it.
Okay. Ma'am, if I ask you, say, for example, a lot of retail investors would be having some amount of money to invest in 2023. Say, if they have about 10 lakh rupees to invest in this year, how would you really advise them to create a portfolio?
So I would say that, this year they need to put maybe 50 to 60% first in large cap, and the balance 40% into mid-stroke small cap. Within large cap, they should continue to hold, as what we said, manufacturing, banking, very select auto, but also FMCG. So instead of consumer durables, we are saying FMCG, that is stocks like Hindustan Lever. Instead of NBFC, we are saying banks, stocks like HDFC Bank in private sector, where we are more comfortable. And as what I say, manufacturing, which is to start with stocks like Siemens. And in infra, one can look at Larsen. So large cap basket, and we recommend a lot the Ashok Leyland, stocks like HPCL. I'm sure there are more, but these are at the top of my mind. And then they should bucket within their mid caps some of the themes which are playing out in India as the India per capita is, unlocking. So take a smaller theme of, say, hospitals, take a smaller theme of defense, QSR, that is quick service restaurants, these and building material suppliers, the EV related auto ancillary. So some of these, players who have a larger market share, if within mid caps they choose that, I think that will serve them really well.
Right. And in the end, if you could share some of the top 3 to 5 stock picks that you have shared with all the investors and your clients as well for 2023?
Certainly, as what I was been naming a few things like HDFC Bank. We think that because of the merger, the stock has slightly derated. But as by middle of the year we go ahead with their MSCI rebalancing and reweight, the stock should definitely outperform, and management will get also time to garner the required deposits and transition. So I think this is the stock which should do really well this year. We also like, as what I said, within large cap for this year, levers where we think demand will be more protected, the growth, plus there will be a tailwind of commodity pressures coming down, so margin expansion. So one can definitely look at that. And we can go ahead into mid caps where there are certain themes and stocks that we like. Like as what we say, we like hotel also as a team, as a theme. We like hospitals. In hotels, we like Chalet Hotel, Lemon Tree. In hospitals, we like Max and Max and Kim's. We like quick service, Westlife. In building materials, we like Kajaria and APL Apollo. So these are some of the larger themes that we are playing in the current year. I must tell you one thing this year for all the investors, that equity is one part. This is the year when they have to diversify their portfolio, because if interest rates peak out, the bond side also will give a slightly more return. At the same time, our in-house view is that gold also should give very good return this year.
Here's what else is making news in the corporate world. Bharat Pay's CEO Sohail Samir will step down from his position and take up the role of strategic advisor this Saturday. The current CFO, Nalin Nagi, will take over as the interim CEO. The fintech unicorn has not given any reason for the exit. Zomato co-founder and CTO Gunjan Patidar has resigned. He is the fourth high-level executive and second co-founder to quit the company in the past few weeks. Zomato's stock fell 2.3% in trade today. It has lost 58% in the past 1 year. Maruti Suzuki reported a 28% rise in its 2022 exports, posting its highest ever overseas shipments of 2.63 lakh units. The company has crossed the 2 lakh milestone for the second consecutive year. The top models exported were Desire, Swift, Espresso, Baleno and Brezza. Just 2 weeks after Sundar Pichai charmed the audience at Google's annual event in Delhi, it was the turn of the other global Indian tech CEO to hold fort in the country. Addressing the Microsoft Future Ready Leadership Summit in Mumbai, Satya Nadella today gave a big thumbs up to India's digital story, calling it the golden age of tech. In his address, the Microsoft CEO pushed the use of artificial intelligence in areas of banking, healthcare and education, invoking the humble vada pav to put across his point.
So we said, let's have some fun. So let's say we go to Dolly and ask it to generate some images on Mumbai. It sort of creates beautiful art. This is going to be the future that you're going to all live in. So it's pretty, some of them are at least very interesting. Then we said, okay, that's cool. Let's ask ChatGPT, what does it think about the future of Mumbai? And it sort of came up with some pretty compelling narrative, right? I mean, it sort of has real optimism that I talked about. You know, it also shares. It talks about both, whether it's infrastructure, the tech involved, the culture, So pretty cool. So then I said, okay, let's get to the real meat of it. Let's ask it to rank order the street food of Mumbai. And it has an opinion, so it did come back, and Vada Pav wins. And then I asked it, like, where can I find the best Vada Pav? Not that I want to create some kind of a challenge for anybody here, but it sort of came back with places. Whether I don't know whether Bandra wants to argue its case, but it's here. And here's the thing. I then went on to say, okay, write a play where Vada Pav argues its greatness. And it did it. And so you should say, oh, okay, this is all fun. Let's actually see it. Like, it'll prompt it, and a little bit of prompt engineering, and it came back. Even Shakespeare would be proud of that. The thing is, this is all fun and games, right? But think about what you just are seeing. You're seeing the emergence of a new reasoning engine. This reasoning engine, clearly we will have to talk about it. What's the responsible use of it? What is the displacement it may cause? Those are all real important considerations. But the other side of it is, let's think about how it can augment every one of us in whatever it is that we're doing. Every knowledge worker is going to be more creative, more expressive, more productive. Every frontline worker will be able to do more knowledge work than they ever were able to do because of this co-pilot being there for them. Every design task, whether it's software engineering, mechanical design, architecture, pick your design task, is going to be that much more productive going forward. So it's ultimately, in my opinion, going to accelerate human creativity, human ingenuity, and human productivity across a range of tasks. It's going to be probably a golden age of what was predominantly, if you think about the computer revolution, it created mass consumer behavior change and productivity for knowledge workers. But what if we could spread that productivity across the board much more evenly? To me, that I think is probably one of the biggest things that we can look forward to.
Shifting focus to some distressing news that rocked the national capital. A 20-year-old girl was dragged to her death by a car on New Year's Eve. The brutality brings to the fore very important questions around road safety and implementation of workplace security regulations. Do we really have enough in place to protect our women employees? My colleague Akanksha Chaturvedi joining us with the laws that are already in place and the approach to take after such incidents as well. Akanksha, what are the regulations surrounding women at the workplace that are currently in force in India?
Well, that's right, Abha. The Indian laws have laid out several regulations for employers to make sure that women are safe in the workplace. As per the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013, employers are legally bound to provide transportation to female employees in case they consent to work between 9:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. Moreover, as per the Factories Act 1948, female employees are supposed to get transportation if they consent to work between 8:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. Well, it's worth noting, Abha, that we don't know so far if the victim of the Delhi accident was also offered transportation by her employer.
Akanksha, are there any loopholes or legal blind spots in these laws?
Well, yes, there are several loopholes in the Factories Act as well as in the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. It's worth noting that these acts may not cover freelance workers. It's also worth noting that in case the company offers transportation and the female employee declines to use that transportation and chooses to travel by her personal vehicle, as was probably the case in the Delhi accident, there is nothing that these laws speak of that. That's why several experts say that clarity is required in the laws so as to cover freelancers and gig workers as well.
Big relief for film exhibitors. India's top court has ruled in favor of cinema halls, saying they're entitled to set their own pricing standards for the sale of food and beverages inside the hall premises. India Today's Kanu Sarda filed this report earlier today.
When it comes to food in theatres, many moviegoers has often complained about the overpriced popcorn and other snacks and beverages. But today's Supreme Court ruling had made it clear that property of the cinema hall is private property of the owner of hall, and owner is entitled to set terms and conditions for sale of food and beverages, and the moviegoer has choice not to purchase the same. The court also clarified that all cinemas must provide hygienic drinking water without any charge. Cinema owners cannot object to reasonable food carried by parents for the infants. The verdict comes in the wake of a plea regarding outside food being carried inside cinema halls. During the hearing, Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, who was hearing the case, remarked that if one wants to take a jalebi inside the cinema halls, owner has the right to object to the same, stating that after eating jalebi, the person could wipe his hands with the chair and ruining it unnecessarily. From New Delhi, this is Kanu Sarda for Business Today.
In an exclusive conversation with BTTV's Chetan Bhutani, Anshul Khandelwal, Chief Marketing and Revenue Officer of Ola Electric, shares the company's growth plans for the upcoming year and his outlook for the Indian EV market. Here's an excerpt.
The new year has been ringing in with good news, with 25,000 unit sales and of course a 30% market share. Your first comments on that?
Yes, indeed. I think this year, 2022, has been great, not just for us, but for India and its electrification journey. I think this has been a monumental year in terms of how EVs have been adopted. You know, from last year's 1% penetration to 6% penetration now, almost hitting a million plus run rate in terms of EV sales. I think India is truly taken to EVs in general. And us specifically, I think we have been the leaders and the sort of torchbearers of this industry. In the last 3-4 months, as you can see, we've been number one, and for the foreseeable future, we're extremely confident that we will be number one. Our market share has surpassed 30% this month, selling over 25,000 EVs for the first time in December, which is unheard of. So I think it's been great for us. And the reason why it has been great for us is, of course, something which I would like to talk a little bit about is number one is a great quality product that we have. Number two is very consumer-centric sales and marketing initiatives that we did. And number three was a very strong community we have, which no other brand in India has, which has led to this sort of growth and adoption from consumers.
Currently, you are operating at about or having plans for for more vehicles by 2026. I'd also like to ask you about the 2022 year, in which a significant trend was noticed, and I was, while doing my research, saw that in November about 77,000 odd units sold, 76,000 in November, and there was a little bit of a downtick for in December as far as the e-two-wheelers vehicles go. This is as per the Vahan data. So, any particular reason towards that?
No, I think December is generally a very soft month for two-wheelers because the year changes, etc. It's the end of the year. If you look at the overall two-wheeler industry, it has degrown by some 35-40% this month. But EVs specifically haven't degrown as much. In fact, the penetration of EVs increased from November, and it is now 6% in December. I think it was something last month. So while there is been dip in EVs, but much lesser as compared to the overall industry, which is just a seasonal or a cyclical trend. But in January, we are very confident it will pick up again in terms of absolutes as well. But if you look at December, we specifically, both in terms of absolutes and market share, have grown. So I think if the product is great, irrespective of the cyclicity or seasonality, it should grow. And I think January will be a much better month for the industry overall.
Right. So, if not Auto Expo, then what is next at Ola? Can we expect more scooters coming up? I know there's a car that's been planned for 26, which of course I'll come to you later on. But could you also give us a sense what are the year plans and the outlook for the EV industry?
So I think, as far as your question goes on Auto Expo, we have our own events, and I know, we host our biannual events where we launch our new products. So that's the platform we use to announce to the world on what we're doing. But this year, I think across multiple things. One is, of course, expanding our product portfolio is one of the focus areas. Second is going to be, as we had mentioned at the end of the year, a very strong focus into core technology and R&D and working on on our own cells and cell technology. Talent upgradation and across the world and sort of hiring great quality talent is the third objective. Making our supply chains more self-reliant is also one of the core objectives that we have, and that's also the objective that India should have for us to see. So I think we will, while there has been an inflection point in 2022, 2023 will be taking it further in terms of these four areas, and it's so that we can open the floodgates for EV adoption in the next few years. So I think a lot of work, of course, while it is exciting, a lot of work is pending, and that's what we're going to focus on this year.
Right, you broadly mentioned a plan. Could you give us the growth plans in some numbers or figures or some targets that you have probably set?
I think the only target that we have is that by 2025 we need to is our mission electric, which is 100% vehicles sold EVs, and we will have the dominant market share of that. But nothing specific in terms of numbers. I think the year has just ended, so yeah, let's just celebrate what's been there in December. No specific numbers, but a lot of products. Of course, 6 products by 2027 is something which we will be launching across multiple categories. That is something which we are clearly excited about and working on. So I think more focus is on products, R&D, talent, supply chain. I think numbers are as a result of it, and we have seen that in the last 4 months.
Now, this news is important for you if you're planning on buying a car in the next couple of months. A slew of popular models are set to disappear by April thanks to new tough emission norms. Here's a list of cars that you should in fact avoid.
Planning on buying a car in the next few months? You'd better hurry because your choice may soon be driven off the road by the new emission rules kicking into effect from April. These include some popular models running on roads today. Before we go into reasons, here's a look at the models you need to either buy immediately or avoid altogether. Maruti Suzuki will soon pull the plug on its highest selling car, the Alto 800. So will Hyundai. The company will stop selling the i20 diesel and Verna diesel. Other cars to be withdrawn include the Tata Altroz diesel and 3 models from Mahindra, the Marazzo, the luxury Altaraz G4 and the KUV100. Skoda Superb and Octavia are on the list as well. Renault will have to pull the plug on the Kwid 800, while its sister concern Nissan will have to withdraw the Kicks Mini SUV. The petrol version of the Toyota Innova Krista will be discontinued. But it's Honda which will face the brunt of the new rule with 5 models: the 4th generation City, the 5th generation City Diesel, Amaze Diesel, the Jazz, and the crossover WRV taking the hit. This is all thanks to the second phase of the BS6 emission norms, which kicks in from April. These are the RDE of real driving emission norms. These new rules require cars to achieve emission targets in real conditions, like in traffic, on signals, on highways, not just in the high-controlled lab environment. For companies, this means upgrading to technology called SCR or selective catalytic reduction from the current LNT lean NOx trap method. Earlier, it was easier for automakers to get their small diesel cars approved in emission tests through LNT. However, an upgradation to SCR is too expensive for some companies to even pass off to the customer, forcing them to withdraw the models from the market.
Well, interestingly, most of these cars are diesel. However, there are some petrol variants available as well. The companies won't really face much pinch because the vehicles that are being phased out are low in sales volume. However, there's a great opportunity for the buyers as they would still be able to get some good discount on the models and the variants that are still available in the showrooms.
That's where we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.